Today I'm going to tell a story. A story about this person.
Okay, so I am doing a stream really drunk with some faggot and then Milo Yiannopoulos. How's it going?
This person.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
This person. And this person.
All lives matter.
What that shit say?
Huh?
Yo, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, man.
What's wrong with
Cops
it?
killing niggas every fucking
What's
day.
wrong
You
with
got,
it?
get the
What's
fuck
wrong?
out of here with that.
Dude, come on, stop.
Fuck it. Video my ass. I don't want to see
Dude,
no
relax.
fucking
It's
video.
just a video, dude.
Certain events involving all of these people transpired at VidCon 2017, which spiraled into an uproar of controversy and chaos. Today we will be delving deeper into the story, looking at all separate perspectives, and I will be giving my opinions on the matter. The story all begins with Sargon of Akkad, sitting at the front row of a panel, witnessing a panel in which Anita Sarkeesian, the feminist, and other feminists were talking about harassment online. And, well, we'll leave this backstory to Sargon himself.
I attended VidCon 2017 in Los Angeles, and I went to meet a group of fellow YouTubers who deal with similar subjects. At VidCon there were several panels that featured Anita Sarkeesian, so we thought we would attend to actually hear what she had to say, and if there was a question and answer session, perhaps we could actually pose some of the criticism to her that she has for years refused to address. We arrived 10 minutes before the first panel was due to start to find the room virtually deserted, so we decided to sit front and centre. Now, we understood that this was going to be rather provocative, as Anita probably wasn't fans of us. So Dave Cullen of Computing Forever suggested that perhaps if she treats us with respect and professionalism and shows some dignity, what we could do is give her a standing ovation afterwards, to show that we could respect her in turn. This, of course, did not happen. Instead, Anita spotted us, in particular me, singled me out, and then subjected me to a torrent of abuse.
If you Google my name on YouTube, you get shitheads like this dude who are making these dumbass videos that just say the same shit over and over again. It's like, I can't give you attention because you're a garbage human. Whatever, dude. But it's, you know, like the fact that these dudes are making endless videos that just go after every feminist.
We had been silent in our seats, listening to what they had to say, and when she says, "Whatever, dude," she's replying to me shouting back at her, "I just want to talk." On page 9 of VidCon's Code of Conduct, there is a paragraph detailing what construes harassment. It reads, "Disorderly conduct that includes but is not limited to any behaviour that is illegal, unsafe, disruptive, discriminatory, or causes excessive discomfort to our attendees or guests." Anita Sarkeesian violated VidCon's Code of Conduct by abusing me from the stage.
There you have it. That's Sargon's side of the story. Now I'll show you a quick video clip of me saying some stuff about Anita's side of the story, since there's not a video of it, only a written statement. Alright, so you go to our Twitter page. Here's Sargon of Akkad. This is the thing. You go over here. Yep. And then you read this. Just read it for yourself. Make your own opinion about it. She says all kinds of stuff. A lot of it is basically making conjectures and assumptions about their intentions, not actual fact. Basically just saying that their intentions were bad, malice aforethought, claiming that they had malice aforethought, even though it's not necessarily true. They have no proof of that. She has no proof of that. I mean, she could be right, who knows, but there's no proof. So that's all, undeniably apparent. Yeah, but you're assuming that. And then so she makes assumptions and then she says a whole bunch of stuff. Basically, she thinks it's harassment that they're sitting up there. Simply not factual. And then she says a lot of stuff, you know. See, that in itself is an act of harassment and intimidation. Maybe intimidation, but I don't really think so. Because they're just viewers sitting up in the front seat to watch her talk and see what she has to say. Maybe they're going to make a video afterwards. Maybe go confront her afterwards. Try to get a good video. Maybe that would have ended sort of badly. But she can't make an assumption about their intentions, and she can't say that they're sitting in the front seat is an act of harassment or intimidation, because that's just simply not factual. And then she says all kinds of stuff about how apparently women are second-class citizens. She literally says women are second-class citizens in this country. It's simply not factual. She doesn't even say they're treated like second-class citizens. They are second-class citizens in her mind, which is just wrong. It's just pretty terrible. And she says, okay, as if power is in accepting a culture in which women are second-class citizens, in which misogyny and workplace harassment and rape are the norm. It's not the norm. Every time you get a job at Taco Bell or Arby's or Walmart, anywhere in this country, they do this big spiel. They make you read books. They make you watch videos. They make you take quizzes about how harassment they have a very serious harassment policy. If you harass anyone, you get instantly fired. So by saying that, it's just downright wrong. I mean, I don't even want to. I'm afraid to do any sort of even touch a girl on the shoulder in a friendly manner in a workplace, because I know that could be perceived as harassment. So to say that, it's just not true. And, smearing Carl some more. I mean, obviously, he probably shouldn't have sat in the front row. That, I'll give her that. That's disrespectful of them, because I think as being people that obviously are not a fan of her work, big critics of her, to be her biggest critics, and then sit in the front row and taking the spots of people who actually do like her work and actually do want to see her because they're her fan, I think that's disrespectful. So I will give her that, but making conjecture and assumptions about their intentions is just downright not factual and immoral. Another one of the things she says in her official statement is that basically Sargon, all he ever does is makes videos inciting his audience to harass her, and that all of his videos he makes all the time are just criticizing and harassing her, and it's just simply not true. Let me show you a clip from Sargon's video. I'll put a link in the description to his video. You gotta check it out. It's really good.
Rather ironic, don't you think, Hank? Given that she was the abuser here, as you have admitted already. We had to take up 2 rows on the right-hand side, because half of the front row was reserved for people who didn't turn up. But I tell you what, we're just at the beginning of the crazy rabbit hole that you have signed off on. Carl is a man who literally profits from harassing me and other women. He makes over $5,000 a month on Patreon for creating YouTube videos that mock, insult, and discredit myself and other women online. And he's not alone. He is one of several YouTubers who profit from the cottage industry of online harassment and anti-feminism. Together, these people have millions of followers who are regularly encouraged by the videos and tweets of these individuals to harass me and other women who make videos daring to assert the basic humanity of women, people of colour, trans folks, and members of other marginalised groups. This is, of course, not true. You can check this for yourself by simply looking at my channel. Here is, for example, the last year's worth of videos that I have made. Apart from this recent kerfuffle, I have hardly mentioned her at all. As far as I can tell, there have been 2 videos in which she has been tangentially referenced, as in, she was not the main focus of the video. Look at all of this. This is not about her, this is hardly about women at all, and it's certainly not about women as a class or anything of the sort. This is about ideology. This is about political events, and this is why I make $5,000 a month on Patreon. And Anita is so powerful that she can merely dog whistle the amount I make a month, and suddenly Patreon is investigating me over my apparent harassment of her. Because of this event, Patreon is investigating me for violating its code of conduct through my behaviour at VidCon, a representative confirmed to Mike. Because of what happened at VidCon, it has been on our radar, so we have been looking into it. Unfortunately for Anita, 2 hours later, Patreon followed up an email to say that I was in the clear. While distasteful and definitely not something we agree with, Sargon's content and conduct do not violate our policies. She has lied, Hank. And her lie was an attempt to defund me. This is something I could have sued her over. But more importantly to me, I have a family to support, Hank. This is the kind of sociopath you are defending. Do you understand that? She is a liar and a bully and not afraid to exercise her power whenever she can. And she does not care who she hurts. And Patreon are supporting me over it, even though they say that my content's distasteful and not something they agree with. But it doesn't matter to Mike.com, who are apparently Anita Sarkeesian cheerleaders. They say, I have not posted content to my account since November 2016. In addition, we have received very few complaints about his page. What do you have to say, Hank? Unlike many Patreon users who offer exclusive content in exchange for donations, I publish my material on YouTube and I keep my Patreon clean, essentially using it only to cash in. If you appreciate my work and would like to reciprocate, $1 a month on Patreon is the best way, I write on my page, offering no rewards, because I'm not trying to incentivize people through, means that I find distasteful. I don't want to try and bribe them into supporting me. If they think I make good content, they might choose to donate $1, and thankfully, 2,500 plus people do, because I work really, really hard.
So yeah, that's that, guys, and I can attest to you guys, especially on this last video. A lot of his videos are really long. That video he made that I just referenced, that was about an hour-long video, and I watched it, dude, and it's phenomenal, man. I can attest that he works hard, because that shit, he got so much evidence. He cited all his sources. He was putting clips green screened onto the shot, and like he got every freaking angle of the story pretty much. Video clips. It was, and honestly, there's some parts that I wanted to cut out and show you on this video, but I don't even want to, because I just need you guys to watch that video. I'll link him in the description. And one of those clips that I wanted to mention, we'll talk more in detail about that later. But there you have it. Anita Sarkeesian. She's being kind of disingenuous about this whole thing with Sargon. I mean, because I will give her this. He said 1 or 2 of those videos tangentially mentioned her. I kind of have to disagree with him on that. I think he underestimated how many it was. I think it was more like 3 or 4 or 5. But still, like, what she said is just completely a grossly over exaggeration. It's based on just her own complaints about random fans going and harassing her, even though that's actually something that every person on YouTube has to deal with. Every person who's ever had an account on YouTube, ever in the history of YouTube, has had to deal with that. So she's taking this thing that everyone deals with and then using it to somehow paint Sargon of Akkad into some villain, even though he has nothing to do with it. He doesn't, he doesn't tell his fans to witch hunt. Pretty much nobody does that. And so what she's doing is actually, she likes to accuse other people of slander, but what she's doing is actual slander. So I think that's noteworthy. Alright, so another part of this story involves a man by the name of Joey Salads. And this is at a different, I think it might have been the same, no, I'm pretty sure it was this different panel. The same panel. Joey Salads was at a panel, and there's this Q&A session. And I watched it, and dude, it was a hellstorm. It was freaking, trash can dumpster city, everyone in the Q&A session, when they asked her a question, I don't think a single one of those questions got answered. Pretty much every single one of them just got, like, you know, kicked out of the frickin' panel, and their question was not answered because all these people asked questions that were slightly in a critical manner of her, and she's so insecure of a person that she can't answer or face any criticism. And here's Joey Salads, his question, his side of the story.
Alright guys, before I start talking, I just want to show you this clip of a thing that happened at VidCon.
Why do you guys act like only women face harassment online? You guys constantly feed the trolls, and look, the majority of the people here are the trolls because they like to see you freak out about it. That's exactly what you guys are doing. You're feeding
even
trolls.
your language, like freak out about, like no.
See, you're just mocking me.
If you
You're
talk
just mocking
about one
me.
community
Answer
facing
this
harassment,
question.
that's not to say that no other communities face any harassment.
See, you're harassing me right now when I'm
Can we
answering
please
this
remove this question
It goes both ways. Now look,
Next
who wants to
question,
please-
I'm answering.
Next question, please. Hi. That's fine, and you know what, dude? When there's a panel talking about that, we'll talk about that. But that's not what we're talking about here today. So it's not like no one can ever talk about anything other than this. No one on this panel said that. So
What's your question?
What's up guys, Joey Salads here. I'm making this video because of an event that happened at VidCon, and it's gotten a lot of press on Twitter, and people are going off, feminists are going crazy, conservatives are clapping. Basically what happened was there was this feminist online speaking panel called, like, I don't know the name of it, it was like Women of the Internet or Women of Online, something like that, I don't remember. I go there, and it's Anna Sarkeesian. And like 4 other super feminist YouTubers, or 3 others, I don't remember how many people were on it. But the entire time, they were just constantly talking about how women face harassment on the internet and how it discourages women from making YouTube videos and this and that, and how they can't handle the hate and how they need to go to other websites for their safe spaces. Just going on and on about how women face all this harassment and all these problems, but not once referred to how men get the same amount of harassment.
Guys, you get the point. Basically, his claim is that his whole question is basically about they're basically devaluing what kind of, you know, the fact that other people can get harassment, and saying that pretty much only women get harassment, and that's basically his question. And they didn't even, like, they were so disrespectful to him. He just asked a simple question. He wasn't even really that rude about it. It was an honest question, and the tyrants and frickin' dictators that they were, all they did was frickin', you know, just shoo him off and scorn his whole question. And that's pretty much the whole Joey Salads thing. But he is only one of many people that were basically asking him shit like that. I think one guy even asked, she was like, Anita Sarkeesian, do you actually believe what you say? Because obviously no one thinks she believes what she says.
Now, personally, what is my take on this? Why is anybody surprised? Okay? Honestly, I was half shocked that she didn't text security a bomb threat to get her out of there. Because Anita is not the type of person that can face her critics. She literally can't. Because she doesn't actually believe the crap she says. I don't give a fuck if somebody links to a long-winded speech she gave at college where she seemed very heartfelt and very genuine. The bitch does not believe a single word she says. She is a con artist through and through. Just like Zoe Quinn. She is a professional victim. As in, it does not matter what she says. It does not matter how she says it. It does not matter if it's the most incorrect thing on the planet. If it keeps getting her money, and it keeps getting her attention, which then leads to more money, she'll keep saying it. She doesn't fucking care. So why is anybody surprised she would pull a stunt like this? Even with all the blowback against this, with people calling her a hypocrite and all this, she'll still make her money back and be in the spotlight again. This was just like when Gamergate happened and she ran onto the scene going, well, I was harassed for pointing out sexism in gaming. Please all you're doing is showing a bad side of Anita to people that already know she's a bad person. Really, it's one of those things where they all think that, oh, we can dialogue with them, we can reason with them. No, people are pretty much on one side or the other. There's no switching sides at this point. I don't want to sound ultra tribalistic, but the point is that when somebody is that ingrained into their thoughts to the point that anything their side does is okay, well, anything the other side does is just bad, then they're kind of at a point beyond reason. Now, am I saying do not critique Anita? Fuck no, critique her all you want. But at the same time, I'm just more annoyed because you just gave her more ammunition to come back into the spotlight and continue fucking shit up.
Okay, so guys, if you've never heard of that guy, that's because, I mean, to be honest, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but pretty much no one has. But he's just some guy, probably has like 7 subscribers, I think. Found this video randomly. I thought it was pretty funny how he's making his commentary. And his commentary, by the way, it's pretty funny. He went pretty fucking hard on Anita Sarkeesian, and that's not what I'm trying to do with this video. I don't want to go hard on her. I'm going to try to sympathize with her later in this video. We'll get to that, but I just thought it was funny how he had this really harsh, freaking dreadful commentary, and then he has like fucking just videos of like dolphins and shit, the most surreal freaking videos. I just thought it was really funny. I'll link his video down below. You should go watch it if you're interested in this topic still. But yeah, anyway, that's basically what he was talking about there. Nobody believes what that Anita believes what she says, and she has a long reputation of pissing people off. She does this weird video game critique series where she kind of, you know, says a bunch of non-factual bullshit. She makes these claims that are pretty much they're, you know, it's like when you're critiquing a video game, I think being a big person like you are, you should handle it with such grace and carefulness that to not, you know, really hurt the video game developers and hurt the feelings of the fans of the game. But no, instead all she wants to do is say shit like, oh yeah, the video game developers purposely put these women into the game so that they could be objects for the gamers to play with so that they can be sexually aroused, and these game developers are sexist as fuck. They're all fucking horrible people. They don't know how to tell a story. She says like really fucked up shit, and then she wonders why people harass her after she just shot down their favorite game. She has no comment sections on any of her video. Anyway, I'm rambling, but that's kind of why people hate her and all that. And then she goes and turns around and says conflicting statements. I don't like video games. The next day she says, I love video games. I've always played video games. So on and so forth. But anyway, guys, we're going to continue on with this. Alright, so the next part of this story involves Boogie2988. And I guess part of what I'm going to go for on this is, I think some of his concerns were similar to what Joey Salad's thought. Is basically like they're sort of claiming that different types of people get more harassment depending on race, gender, etc., etc., even though he can tell it's not true just by, I think what it is that she doesn't realize that people are being criticized from the contents of their character rather than she attributes them being criticized by some other factor, whether it be their race, sex, gender, whatever the hell. And here, let me just put exactly what happened here.
And when it came to Anita, I specifically did not want to upset her. And I was very, very worried that because of my Francis videos and because of some of the stupid things I said in the past, she might have some preconceived notions about me. She might have some misconceptions about me and like be preemptively ready to be frustrated or irritated by me. I was even afraid that at one point she might cancel the panel if she knew who I was. Because a lot of people confuse me as being very right or maybe alt-right, when in reality, I consider myself to be a moderate who leans fairly left. And unfortunately, on the first day of VidCon, something happened that made my anxiety go almost completely out of control. During Anita's first panel called Women on Gaming, that panel went very, very wrong, with some people attacking them during the Q&A section. And even during that panel, some people who were sitting right near the front are people she considers to be detractors of hers. And she became so nervous and felt so attacked that she actually called one of those detractors names right to their face. I'm sure you've heard about this controversy. And because of that, I began to be very afraid that if she disagreed with me, she might do the same during our panel, making me feel very uncomfortable and making the audience feel very uncomfortable. And that's definitely not something I could handle. And my anxiety got so bad that really up to about an hour before the panel, I had every intention of canceling on them. But I really don't like upsetting the VidCon team. And I didn't want to have to try to explain all of that to them, the reason I was canceling, but why I would be doing everything else I did that day. And I also thought that could be perceived as an attack. And I just wanted to do the panel, and I just wanted to hope for the best and hope that everything worked out. My anxiety got the best of me, and just about every YouTuber I know, and even some of my fans, and even a fellow panelist that I got to spend some time with, and even the moderator for the panel, I ran by all of my talking points and asked, do you think this is something that would be offensive? Do you think this is something that would upset Anita or anybody else in the audience? I wanted to make sure to get this right, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced. When I got to the green room for the panel, Anita was there, and I finally worked up the courage to introduce myself and let her know that I do like her Feminist Frequency series, that I find it challenging, and I like to have my misconceptions challenged, and that while I didn't always agree with her, I appreciated her making it, and tried to let her know that she was safe around me and everything was going to be fine. I tried to be friendly, and she was fairly friendly back, though very reserved, which is understandable because she was having a pretty shit weekend. And I personally think the panel went very well. I got to make all of the major points that I wanted to make. I felt like every other panelist did too. I was very careful not to bogart the time. I was trying to be very careful to not interrupt anybody else, though I would offer a follow-up once they were done speaking. I made some of my major points, which was telling the stories of the things that I've endured, how I've learned to deal with it, about how other YouTubers I've spoken to have endured it as well, and how they choose to deal with it, and the tools that are available there for you. And I think Anita got to make most of her points as well throughout most of the panel. I think everybody got a chance to speak and say how they felt and what they thought was best. I think the only thing that could closely represent an attack on Anita is when she said that she hoped that everybody left the panel angry and bitter and ready to fight. I countered by saying that I personally don't feel those things, and I personally don't choose to do that, and I try to foster a community that's not angry and doesn't fight. I try to foster a community that celebrates beautiful things instead. But I looked directly at her as I said it when I was done, and she seemed comfortable and fine with that answer. Before you knew it, the panel was over, and the moderator said we had about 5 minutes if anybody had any closing statements. So I made a closing statement that it took about a minute to say, and I said that I wanted to remind everybody in the audience that I am a person of privilege as a white cis male, and then I went over the types of attacks that have happened to me again with the assassins and the boxes of feces and all of that kind of stuff, and then just try to remind the audience that if whoever you are, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you, and then try to remind everybody that this isn't a matter of identity politics. This is a human rights issue, that I think these types of attacks are human rights violations, and that we should all consider that so that we can be unified against them. A couple of more panelists had their closing arguments, and then we left the stage, and I'm shaking, very, very nervous, but I felt like it went well. And when I get off of the stage at the bottom of the panels, there's Anita, and she seemed to be very, very upset. And I don't remember exactly what she said. I'm paraphrasing here, but she said in a very upset that I think it was very fucking uncool that you said what you said there at the end, knowing that no one else would have enough time to respond. And I bet you can imagine how that affected my anxiety, because the exact focal point of my anxiety for the entire weekend, in fact, for the last 6 weeks, the nightmare scenario that I was terrified of actually had come true. I had upset somebody who I very, very much had tried to not upset and did not want to upset.
So yeah, guys, you get the point. Poor old Boogie, sorry, not Biggie. Boogie, one of the people consider him to be one of the nicest people on YouTube. And this poor man, because of Anita, the content of her character, being someone who's so fragile of a person, so strong of an ego, so unwilling to take any sort of criticism, someone with such immeasurable and unfair amounts of power that she can just take any criticism and then accuse the criticizer of being racist or sexist, etc., etc. And then if she breaks the codes of conduct, she gets excused because, again, the person who runs VidCon is probably afraid of being accused of being sexist or racist. So he really probably had no choice. And a lot of these videos about the situation are actually criticizing Hank Green, who gave her the second chance, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I think I honestly feel bad for him, because Anita is such a vicious person that if he would have, kicked her out for breaking the code of conduct, she probably would have started this horrible tirade against Hank Green, accusing him of being this horrible racist, and it would have ruined his reputation. So, considering all that, she's such a fragile human being that people like Boogie, good people, have to literally be afraid and horribly on the edge for weeks just from the fact that they might be around her, because they're that afraid of her getting offended and starting some tirade against them. I think she should really reconsider how she deals with people and how she just handles life, because anyone who puts people on the edge that badly just because of her just horrible self-defense and attacking on people, anyone who's slightly critical of her, I think the reason people criticize her is because just of that. It's because of just that, because she's not forgiving enough, and she can't take criticism. How can anyone get close to her? How can anyone, especially when she completely denies any form of conversation? All the comment sections are disabled, and when she does that, she's not only blocking out the haters, which there are many, she's also blocking out her OnlyFans. And how can someone live like that, only being able to see the bad? That's what she's doing. So it's really kind of terrible I honestly feel bad for her, because she's just an insecure person. There's some serious issues going on there. But that's Boogie's, man. Boogie's side of the story. It's basically what happened. And everything he said in the panel was really, reasonable, moderate stuff. So, that being said, Anita is just... And I will give her this. I think she was just in a bad place at the time. And honestly, Boogie later talks about how she actually then had a conversation with him in the back. So, to her credit, she's not all bad. Anyway, we'll continue this now. Alright, now for this part of the video, we're kind of going to delve a little bit deeper into who Anita is, because all I've really done to this point is basically show the bad of her, show people who criticize her. But I'm going to show, just to show you guys, I'm not actually a fan of her, that, she's not terrible. She's not a horrible person, and I think a lot of these videos and everything, they only show the bad of her. They never represent any of the good of her, and I think that's very damaging to a person like this. And she brings up some points which I'll talk about after this clip.
It's understanding our own intersections of privilege and oppression and how that will fundamentally change our behaviors and attitudes and values. It's realizing that being a feminist is a lifelong learning endeavor, and that we will make some mistakes on the way, and we should be compassionate to ourselves when that happens. It's realizing that others will make mistakes, and we should extend that compassion to them as well. Feminism is not about striving for perfection. It's about striving for justice. We are all connected. We are all bond together under the oppression of patriarchy, and as such, our personal actions or inactions do have a harmful effect on other women, especially those from the most marginalized communities. I realize this isn't a popular thing to say, but I can't say it apparently. That's how bad it is. No. But feel-good personal empowerment is not how to be a feminist. In order to be a feminist, we have a responsibility beyond ourselves. We have a responsibility to each other, and we have a responsibility to work for the collective liberation of all women.
So there you have it, guys. There's a little piece of a video where she said something that wasn't totally horrible. I mean, I'm no feminist. I don't really... I mean, this new stream of feminism, I think oftentimes has gone too radical. Totally the old feminist stuff, like, you know, when the feminists were trying to get, you know, voting rights and you know, equal pay and all that, that's great, man. Like, but obviously under the Constitution we should all live as equal humans. You know, anyone that lives in this country deserves equal rights, equal protection under the Constitution, 14th Amendment. But some of this feminism stuff I don't necessarily agree with that's going on right now, because oftentimes they've turned it into this thing where they put people into a pecking order, and they all of a sudden have this expectation where feminists now should like reign supreme over men, and basically men, especially white men, should, you know, self-deprecate about it. They should basically feel ashamed for being a man because of what their predecessors did. That's completely wrong. Someone shouldn't have to feel bad about something that people that's not them did. People that did many years ago. They have no control over that. And all this stuff about, you know, shaming yourself and privilege. I mean, these people, regular white men, white Christian men that are apparently supposed to be the most privileged people in the world. They have more privilege than any people ever in the entire world. And you see them in this country, and they're living in just as horrible, terrible circumstances as their minority counterparts. You know, they're living such horrible, terrible lives as their minority counterparts in the same amount of poverty and misery. And they're saying, where's my privilege? You're trying to assert to me that I should feel bad about myself because I'm a white Christian male, and saying that I'm so much privileged and y'all hate me for that, but where's my privilege? I don't see it. Here I am, freaking sleeping on the streets, and look at me, my privilege. Look at what it's gotten me. So I think that's wrong. But what she said here, you know, we're all going to make mistakes, and we should extend compassion and forgiveness to those people who make mistakes. That's true. That is the best thing I've ever heard her say. And honestly, some of her video game reviews, I saw her Dishonored 2 one. It wasn't bad, man. Like, honestly, she's a good writer. You know, it was very, very good language, and the language she used and the way she described the game, it was a good review. I didn't agree with all her criticism, you know, but honestly, it was a really good review. I know some of her reviews she's done in the past have just been fucking horrible, but not everything is bad, man. So yeah, guys, this next part, I kind of want to, I know she's never going to hear it, and even if she did, she would just scoff at me and respond by calling me a harasser, etc., etc. But this is a message for Anita. Why do you say things like what you said in this speech? Very intelligent, very agreeable things. We should extend that same compassion for everyone else. We understand that all of us make mistakes. But instead of ever doing that in your entire life, seemingly, you respond by saying things like this.
What I couldn't say is fuck you.
I mean, you take things like that. It's, Sargon of Akkad. Instead of, reasoning with him, talking to him, trying to see his point of view and actually talking to him, instead, all you do is call him a shitbag and a garbage human in the middle of a crowd. And I get that, like, maybe his fans have harassed you and all that, but Jesus Christ, dude, like, can't you just treat him with dignity like another human? Look at Lacey Green. This feminist, like, actually, Sargon was more horrible to Lacey Green than he ever was to you, and you gotta check Sargon's video out for this, but he saw Lacey Green at VidCon, and they hugged, and they made up that he forgave her, and they had a long, in-depth conversation. Beautiful story, man. You need to check out his video for this. And look at this, Anita. Even Lacey Green, the great, most infamous feminist, those videos very much similar to you. And she's willing to forgive Sargon. See his point of view. And he's willing to forgive her. Maybe if you took a step out of your own paranoid, cynical little shell, your own cynical little frame of mind, considering that everyone other than you and your fellow feminists are horrible, racist, misogynistic pieces of shit that deserve to die. In fact, all you guys even turned on Lacey Green. How could you turn on Lacey Green, man? Just because she had a slightly controversial view to what you guys believe in. But if you took a step outside of your little cynical shell and actually talked to people, actually talked to your critics in person, if you actually talked to Sargon of Akkad, had a real conversation, you'd realize he's just a human, just like me. Maybe he makes mistakes, maybe he's kind of a dick sometimes. And maybe I should acknowledge that I'm kind of a dick sometimes. But no, instead, all you choose to do is live in your little world where you're perfect and everyone else is horrible, and you're just a victim of everyone in this world is your enemy, and they're out to get you. And you say that you're trying to not look like you're insecure, but the fact is that you are insecure. There are great harassers, but then you paint them all as being the same person. Sargon of Akkad isn't Milo Yiannopoulos just saying feminism is cancer.
I've taken some time out of my busy schedule, being fabulous and doing my hair, to prepare a speech for you. Well, a few remarks, really. Feminism is cancer. Thank you very much.
Funny, I don't even have anything against Milo. I think he's kind of a dick sometimes to like feminists and everything, but whatever. He's pretty funny. But anyway, yeah. I mean, you can't. I mean, there are people like that, but not everyone's like that. I mean, come on, man. Why can't I challenge you? I challenge you to actually do a video on video. Go talk to Sargon of Akkad. Do a video with him. You guys can pre-rehearse and all that. Heck, even do 2 against 1, you and Lacey Green, with Sargon of Akkad, and do a debate on video or on stream. I would have gained, and I think most people would have gained, an exponential amount of respect for you if instead of being immature and calling him a garbage human, calling him a shithead, saying fuck you, is reason with him. Talk to him. Give your side, listen to his side. Because that's what mature adults are supposed to act like. Instead, you chose the other road. You chose to act like what 2-year-olds act like, really. But I challenge you, it's not too late. Reach out to him. Instead of just blocking him like an insecure child. Reach out to him and do a video with him. I'm sure he'll be glad to. I want you to watch some clips. I think you could learn from them.
Neuroscientists speak of a lower part of the brain they call the reptilian mind, and tell us that under its sway we strike back when we're hit, blame others, quell any stray questions that lack immediate relevance, fail to free associate, and stick closely to a flattering image of who we are and where we're headed. However, at rare moments when there are no threats or demands upon us, perhaps late at night or early in the morning, when our bodies and passions are comfortable and quiescent, we have the privilege of being able to access the higher mind, what neuroscientists call our neocortex, the seat of imagination, empathy, and impartial judgment. We loosen our hold on our own egos and ascend to a less biased and more universal perspective, casting off a little of the customary anxious self-justification and brittle pride. In such states, the mind moves beyond its particular self-interests and cravings. We start to think of other people in a more imaginative way. Rather than criticize and attack, we're free to imagine their behavior being driven by pressures derived from their own more primitive minds, which they're generally in no position to tell us about. Their temper or viciousness are, we now see, symptoms of hurt rather than of evil. It's an astonishing gradual evolution to develop the ability to explain others' actions by their distress rather than simply in terms of how it affects us.
That video, I'll link it down below in the description. When I first watched that video, I think I shed a tear. It changed my life, and now I actually live by those principles. I literally live by them. If you guys ever see my Instagram, I think I paraphrased some of the things he said there in my Instagram for like my motto. I really believe what he said there, and honestly, to the people who criticize Anita, every time she does a video game review that's critical of a video game and etc., maybe she can be a little bit harsh about it, but don't bitch and moan all day long about how you fucking hated the review and how much you hate Anita Sarkeesian. Just fucking leave her alone already. She's heard enough. You're not proving anything to anyone. People already know. The critics of her already know who she is. And the people that love her are never gonna freaking let go. They're just gonna keep hating you. So you're not proving anything. And to Anita Sarkeesian, I think you could also learn from this. I think you should actually see these critiques and realize that maybe they're done out of symptoms of hurt rather than of evil. They're not critiquing you because they're evil. They're critiquing you because you've offended them. And I think the real problem with our society, especially between these wars, ideological civil wars between you and feminism and people on the right, moderates, it's because it's based on this whole bullshit. You're one of the people who actually proclaims it the most and sings it the most. We must fight back. I think if we saw viewing the world as fight back, strike back when you're hit, and rather saw it as empathizing with what they're thinking, seeing their attack and forgiving them, seeing where they're coming from, and somehow taking their critique and constructing it into something positive. If you did that every single time someone criticized you, and then you used it and applied it, and you talked to these people, then no one would hate you. Well, okay, some people would, but it would be the same people that have fucking harassed you. Most of the people that have harassed you for years, little fucking idiot 12-year-olds who don't know a fucking thing about the world. But they don't fucking matter because they're 12-year-olds. So, take that. I honestly think you should apply it if you ever hear this. Spread this around, guys. Seriously. I think this would change the world if people applied this. Rather than, oh man, Anita made this video, I'm going to respond in this most vicious way. And then her responding with, fuck, they attacked me, they're a racist, sexist. Instead of that, turning it into a dialogue, actually conversing. But I think with that Couch Potato guy said earlier, you know, everyone's past the point of reason. It's pretty much true. We're already in a falling, plummeting pile of shit that this world is. It's never going to recover. Pretty much there's probably never going to be world peace. Everyone's just going to keep disputing and arguing and fucking killing each other until this world ends. Either caused by us or by some fucking black hole or some shit. I question whether the human condition is possible to assimilate to this. Obviously there are good people out there, but I don't think they outnumber the bad people, and I don't think the amount of good people being produced outnumbers the amount of bad people being produced. This exponential, surmountable excess of bad people to good people, people that are learned and programmed to think with empathy, versus people who only learn and think in the idea of strike back when you're hit, the reptilian mind. It's going to turn into the good people being completely outnumbered. But maybe that's way too cynical on my end too. I also like to think that a shining light in the darkness cuts through the darkness. One good person overall is more powerful than 10 bad people. But this is all just turning into ridiculous hyperbole and abstract nonsense. But I think it should be considered. To the anti-feminists, stop making these fucking feminist cringe compilations. Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you do and the feminists see it, just don't fucking be offended by it. Maybe the reason, you know, there's been so many feminist cringe compilations, you should take this criticism and apply it, because for the past couple of years, these feminists living in this state of mind that everyone's out to get them, everyone's against them, everyone is a psychopathic, racist, sexist. When you talk and act like that, you wonder why people are turning against you. It's because you're putting everyone against you. And if you want to keep pretending that only people that are feminist or women get harassed, and they only ever get harassed because they're women and feminists, take a look at Christian Burns. He's not a feminist. He's not a liberal. He's none of those things. And yet all the same people that criticize the feminists are criticizing him. Not because he's a feminist, because of the content of his character. Martin Luther King said, "I want people to be judged by the content of their character, but not by their skin color." And I'm proud to live in a country where that's actually happening. But rather, you guys would rather accuse all those who do criticize and judge as being people who criticize based on their skin color or their race or identity, rather than the content of the character, where that's simply not true. So I question you, where do you stand on forgiveness, since you've simply never showed, as far as to my knowledge, to forgive? You've never forgiven anyone up to this point. Look at Joe, the guy that was horribly harassed to his face by Christian Burns at VidCon. Heck, I'll show this clip. He learned to forgive Christian Burns. Why can't you be like him?
Okay guys, a lot of you have seen this video blowing up on Twitter where, I can't remember his name, some kid anyway, was being horrible to Joseph here, right?
Okay, I'm famous, you're not. So that doesn't make you any better. I have a lot more money than you. Okay, so listen to me. Listen to me. Ugly is fucking irrelevant. Kill yourself. What? Yeah. Get the fuck out of my face. You are a peasant. Dude, you're blue collar as fuck. Like, get the fuck out of my face.
I just want to say on behalf of like the YouTube community, I'm sorry about that, and I just want to say I respect you. Thank you very much. And you're an awesome human being. Awesome. I was just doing my job. And earlier I had this amazing idea. I would love to invite all my viewers and everyone on the internet to follow an Instagram account of yours. I know if you have Instagram, and I reckon we could get it bigger than that kid that was like shouting at you about about not being famous. I think we could blow you up just to make a point, or to make a statement.
Yeah, the Joe's the kid.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's blow him up, guys. Let's get him to like 100k followers. I think this would be so good.
I actually took that and just uploaded that to Twitter and told people to go and follow his Instagram account. It's had almost 2,000 retweets, and as of 9 p.m. tonight, he's got 13.4k followers on Instagram. How cool is that? I reckon we can get him to 100k. I honestly think we can. He said when his shift ends at 11 tonight, he's going to come and hang out on the bus so we can chat to him a little bit more. Maybe we, as this bigger community, can get behind him, support him, and yeah, show him that we're not all kind of self-absorbed, egotistical kind of famous internet celebrities, but we want to do good.
Tell them to go kill themselves, you know, they might just go and do it. Yeah. The way people are backlashing even with Christian, they shouldn't be as tough. And I know that sounds crazy, because how can I say that if they
Yeah, no, it's right, man. That's cool.
We should be even a little kinder to him, man. Like, he doesn't... All the bad stuff he's getting, I think he already knows he's the bad person here. Like, we shouldn't make it worse on him, you know what I mean? You could only understand where his state of mind is. After thinking he was a god, I guess the people were something that he wasn't, to have his world crumble down at the same time. We don't want nothing bad happening to him.
So look at that. You have Joe, who is freaking harassed to his face by this piece of shit. He's not a feminist or anything. And all the same people that you claim to be horrible, racist, terrible people, like Keemstar, etc., all these people that have, you know, criticized feminists, maybe even you, in the past, defended Joe, this man who was attacked by Christian Burns. And you see that they're not terrible people, and that they will criticize the people who are doing terrible things and acting in horrible ways to people, treating people badly, and not because of who they are as a person. But that's what you seem to think people are doing when they criticize feminists. It's simply not the case. People criticize feminists because of how they feel, judge others' actions by their distress rather than simply in terms of how it affects us. And maybe the people who are criticizing the feminists should do this as well, because it becomes a reoccurring problem. It wraps around itself when these feminists keep on getting criticized and shamed and belittled over and over again. And all of a sudden it becomes even more reinforced that it's them against us, and everyone in their eyes all of a sudden becomes a demon. So I do sympathize with them, because they originally just wanted this message about equality for women, even though it seems slightly delusional in a way. But what it turns into is all these fucking assholes basically just criticizing them and making videos defaming them online. And then that is what led to these feminists acting so horribly. Maybe not in every case. Maybe a lot of feminists are just horrible people in general. Not because they're feminists, just because of who they are. I mean, look at Zarna. The way she treated that poor man, humongous. Great guy, extremely active in his community. He's done a lot of great things for his community, man. Humongous. All he did was say a joke. His name is Rudy Pena. What's his name? Anyway, all he did was do a simple joke, and she turns it into this thing where she would rather, instead of take the joke, laugh it off and walk away. She turns it into this thing where she tries to ruin his reputation in public, calls him a frickin' sexist or a racist. She accuses him of sexually harassing her, even though all he did was say a joke. Take that, and you see how she acted and how the public responded, and then try to convince the world that they're the bad ones and that you're the good ones, and that you're being unrightfully criticized. It's delusional. It really is. So, if anyone actually fucking watches this entire video, try to send this to Anita. Even just cut the last part out of my video and try to get her to listen to it. because I think it's an important message. I think the world would respect her more if she let go of her pride and ego and actually talked to her critics face to face. But that's fine. One final thought. In this last part of the video, I often referenced that video from the YouTube channel School of Life, written by Elaine de Botton. And yeah, how I said this is something that, you know, I kind of live by those principles. And you take this, explain people's anger and viciousness as symptoms of hurt rather than of evil. But it's not impossible to say that in this case, this one in a million rare case, I think Anita could possibly actually be doing what she's doing because she's literally an evil person. All the evidence points towards all she does is make thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars from donations. Never takes any criticism well. Anyone who does criticize her, she intimidates and strong arms, tries to ruin their life, ruin their reputation, ruin their career. To the point that anyone who is ever in association with her is afraid of every word that they say. They have to walk in eggshells in front of her because of who she is, what kind of a person she may be, and what she is. I mean, obviously she's faced some of the most horrible, terrible harassment that I can think of. That being said, Boogie2988 has as well. Potentially even equally bad, and he's not a feminist as she claims. But yeah, she's experienced bomb threats, death threats, rape threats, all that shit. But well, none of it is warranted. None of it is something that anyone should ever do. I do not condone any of it. No one should ever condone any of it. I don't think any of her critics that she points out, such as Sargon of Akkad, would ever want anything to do with that. Would anyone want anyone to do something like that? But maybe the people who are doing it not just because they're terrible, horrible people, but because they literally see the things she's done as evil. The way she's tried to fund companies to literally send horrible people to completely harass video game developers, destroying companies, fucking people's lives up. Is she an evil person? Can we explain her anger and viciousness as symptoms of hurt rather than of evil, or is it actually evil in this case? I'll posit to you that question. But anyway, guys, check out the description of this video. There's a lot you need to check out. Hope you've enjoyed, and please don't unsubscribe.